classic TV fans, Rick Nineg here. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to be talking about I Love Lucy. More specifically about forgotten I Love Lucy episodes. Now, what do I mean about forgotten? Well, let's start here. Let's say that if you are a fan of I Love Lucy, there are fantastic episodes. Really good episodes that you love watching, and then there are episodes that you probably don't like and episodes that you don't like to watch. Now, whether you like them or you don't, there are episodes that you remember, episodes I say, oh, I remember this one, it was great, or I remember this one, it was horrible, and vice versa. However, there are some episodes right in the middle where they're not really liked, they're not really disliked, but they're kind of in the middle, they're just meh. They're episodes that we may not even remember were made by I Love Lucy. Now I'm going to talk about those. That is mediocre episodes that are not so great, and I'll talk about why they're not so great. Of course, these are my thoughts. I love to know your thoughts and hear what you think about them. So let's get right into them. I've compiled a list of 10. There may be some that I missed, there may be some that you may agree or disagree with, but be sure to let me know in the comments down below. I think we can have some great discussions about this. Let's start with number 1. Now, let's start with Season 1. The episode is called Quiz Show. Now, I want to talk about this because I actually don't think that this is that bad of an episode. It's actually fairly good. I like to watch it myself. But in my case, it is one that is easily forgotten. Why? Well, let's talk a little bit about this. Lucy agrees to go on a quiz show stunt in order to win $1,000. And she must introduce a stranger to Ricky as her long-lost husband. However, when Lucy mistakes a tramp who's in the road for a stranger, things get really confusing. Now, the character of the tramp is played by John Emery, who would later appear in another I Love Lucy episode where Ricky gets a dog. He's the grumpy neighbor. He was actually the once husband of Tallulah Bankhead, and he's playing, as I mentioned, the tramp. As there's another real-life husband on here, Philip Ober. Now, he's the one who plays Lucy's fake husband. Now, Philip Ober was one of the real-life husbands of Vivian Vance, who played Ethel Mertz on I Love Lucy. So that's a pretty good tie there. Now, why don't I think this episode is memorable? It's easily forgotten. Well, there's nothing really that hits you kapow about the episode. There's a lot of focus on the tramp character and coming to the house, and there's no really connection there. There's not a lot of funny parts in the episode. I would even say it falls flat. There are some little golden moments, which is why I like it. We get to see the outside of the apartment building and so forth. But other than that, it's pretty forgettable. Number 2 on my list. Now, don't look too much into the order here. It's mostly chronological. It's not like number 1 is the most forgettable or 10 is the most forgettable. These are all, in my opinion, forgettable episodes of I Love Lucy. We get to number 2, it's called Drafted. Now, I actually enjoy watching this episode. It's kind of slow paced, and again, things on this list aren't necessarily good or bad, they're just forgettable. Why I think this is forgettable? There's not a lot that is here that is super strong. Overall, there are funny moments here with Fred and Ricky, with Lucy and Ethel, but mostly Lucy and Ethel are just crying and knitting socks the entire episode. And then at the end, they cram a bunch of people into a closet, which is kind of a funny sight gag when they pull them out and they're all stuck together. But there's a lot of going back and forth between the couples, and nothing ever punches you in the gut with laughter. It's just there. So in my opinion, it is very forgetful. Now, sticking with this concept, we move to Season 2 of I Love Lucy, the anniversary present. Now, essentially, Grace Foster, Lucy and Ricky's neighbor, played by the beautiful Gloria Blondell. Now, she works at a jewelry store, and it's their anniversary, and Ricky's trying to get pearls for Lucy. So he goes to her apartment, and they're trying to get all these jewels and so forth in order, and Lucy thinks essentially that he is cheating on her. Again, nothing truly memorable in this episode unless you look at the final scene where Lucy gets paint all over her and Ethel's hanging on to her. They are essentially quote-unquote painting the building because they're spying. There's nothing too funny except that, yeah, they get paint all over, but even here the audience isn't laughing that much. Once the initial shock of the paint all over Lucy's head blows over, it's not really funny even to the audience. Continuing on in Season 2, Vacation from Marriage. Now this one, the beginning of the episode is pretty boring. It is essentially just looking at the routine that Ricky and Lucy have, as well as Fred and Ethel, that it's boring. So they decide to have the girls and the guys kind of team up with each other in their individual places, and they make each other jealous. But there's nothing, again, that hits hard or is that memorable, except, yeah, the last scene where Lucy and Ethel are on the roof of the apartment complex, but they're just crying. And Ricky sprays them with water, and okay, it ends. They're like, let's be friends again. The end. Nothing crazy, no crazy shenanigans. Essentially, it's a very normal episode, and that's why it is so forgettable. Let's move on to the next episode. It's called Inferiority Complex. I don't know if any of you even remember this episode, and that's nothing condescending. It's truly an episode that I always forget. I mean, think about it. Lucy is already in that stage where she had the baby, and Lucy is so depressed because she's having those postpartum blues. There's nothing really funny about this episode. Lucy's just feeling so sullen, sad, depressed, and she's trying to be funny. No one likes to be with her, and it's very isolating for Lucy. And there's no gut punch at the end. She cries throughout most of the episode, and she's essentially not satisfied by anyone on the show. And I don't know how many of you actually want to watch Lucy fake cry throughout the whole episode, and nothing really happens. Nothing zany happens. Just Lucy saying, no one likes me. That sums up this entire episode. Now, this one to me is puzzling. The club election, also from season 2. It's a little bit confusing because Lucy and Ethel each want to run for president of their club, the Wednesday Afternoon Fine Arts League. However, only one woman is set to make the deciding vote. Her name is Ruth Knickerbocker. You never meet this character, in fact, and the boys even try to woo the wrong woman, thinking it's Ruth, but it's not. It's her mother-in-law, and in this case, it doesn't really even matter because they become co-presidents. And so some of the focus on half of the episode, the later half, is on Ricky and Fred wooing this woman. And there's not a lot of Lucy. And there are no real funny gags in this episode. It is so forgetful. And I'm really, really pressing to think how anyone would enjoy or think this episode is funny. It is truly a forgotten episode. Moving on to the next one, this episode is called Mertz and Kurtz. We have to move way ahead into season 4 of I Love Lucy. Now, in my opinion, this should have been one of the best episodes because I love Fred Mertz. I think his character is great, and it highlights Fred Mertz and his best friend, Barney Kurtz. However, we find out that they're vaudeville friends, and one is trying to one-up the other and saying that they're doing well, that they're essentially low-key wealthy. And essentially neither of them are, and they're both not doing great. And we find out that Barney Kurtz is a liar, that he's lying about his fame and his fortune. And they do this show at the end with Barney Kurtz, Fred, Ricky, Ethel, basically the whole gang. And it's not super funny. They just sing a couple songs, and Ricky's bang the hunk, and that's it. There's nothing crazy about this episode that would even stand out. It is truly forgettable. Now, the episode with Mertz and Kurtz is something that I do watch every once in a while. It's not a horrible episode. It's just not really memorable. Now, this episode isn't memorable to me at all. I even struggle right now when trying to think about what it really is. It's called The Matchmaker. Now, don't confuse it with another Matchmaker type episode. This is one where Lucy's trying to hook up or get together this couple, Sam and Dorothy. Now, they come over to the apartment, and Ricky says how horrible marriage is, quote unquote, trying to discourage Sam, the guy, from getting married to Dorothy. And in fact, Lucy gets upset and she tries to make him like the worst meal ever. And there's just animosity between the two, and there's no big gag. The other episodes that I'm leaving out of here, there's a big thing, there's a big punchline. There isn't one here. It's just Lucy making food that isn't appetizing. Nope. Not my type of episode, and an episode that I always forget. I want to know, do you forget it as well? Very forgettable episode. Now, of course, I love the Hollywood sequence in all those episodes. I think it's brilliant, but the one episode I think is super weak, and I always try to skip over, is Don Juan and the Starlets. Why? Because it's so forgettable. I'm waiting for the funny part. The episode doesn't even end with a joke. It ends with Lucy and Ricky being upset, or that is Lucy being upset, thinking that Ricky didn't come home last night and stayed out with the Starlets and essentially cheated. The whole half of the episode, the last half, is him trying to prove that he came home or to the hotel and that he did not cheat on her. And then he said, oh, yeah, the playbook, it was here the whole time. and then they giggle, and then that's it, the end of the episode. I'm like, where's the punchline? Where's the funny scheme by Lucy? It's not there. It's just a misunderstanding that's not even that funny. Challenge me and tell me where it's funny. It is really not at all, and truly a forgettable Hollywood episode. And here we jump to season 6, the last episode I'll focus on. It's called Lucy Gets Stage Fright. Now, in this one, let's not confuse it with the one where Little Ricky learns to play the drums. That one has funny moments where Ricky's playing the drums and then two, and the beat never stops, right? This is a different one. This is where Little Ricky's supposed to play in a little recital, and he just gets scared, and he doesn't want to play because his parents and the Mertzes are scared equally. And there's a couple funny scenes where the parents and essentially the godparents, Ricky, and the gang are frightened. They're nervous for little Ricky, but that's about it. And the whole episode, they're trying to convince him, and by the end of the episode, he plays. Now, it's more of a, I don't know, cute episode at the end with little Ricky essentially getting back on his horse and playing the drums, but it's pretty forgettable in the sense of there's no real huge funny punchlines. There's no Lucy zaniness that she pulls, no stunts. It's essentially just trying to get Ricky to play the drums again. And that's it. They do it, and the episode ends. Very, very forgettable. Now, this is not me at all discouraging or trying to put I Love Lucy down. It is my absolute favorite show of all time. But I know some people may say, Rick, you think that every episode of I Love Lucy is perfect, it is great, and that's not true. In fact, this is why I made this list, to show you that there are some forgettable, not great episodes, in the sense that there's no punchline, there's no comedic hit in any of these episodes that I would think would make them memorable or something that I would truly say, hey, I want to pop in this episode or watch one of these, because it is truly iconic, and none of them really are. They're just forgettable. They're just there. They're just meh. What do you think? I love your thoughts down below. That makes this channel what it is. Your comments, your support. I do appreciate all of you for your support, your likes, your subscriptions. It is truly appreciated. We'll see you all next time, and don't forget, everyone, be hopeful. Thank you so much to my supporters, especially my Diamond Tier patrons: Harold P., Terry Y., Jerry D., Citizen Kane 359, Jennifer P., David D., Kevin K., Sally N., and Vito L. If you want to join the patron community, check the link in the description below. Thank you.